Hey, how you guys doing? It's the producer from Brothers Comics. Welcome to What We Missed in Wrestling, our recap podcast from the 90s as we go back and look at some professional wrestling in WWF and WCW and the time that we weren't watching wrestling. It's kind of a modern twist to this, too. On the line is Brother Beavis. What's happening, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, we've struggled trying to get through this, and again, if you've listened to us for a while on any of the various podcasts, it's really like, man, if we're into something, we have no problem making time, finding the time to do it. Like, how you know what? I'm gonna go to comic book store, pick up, foil embossed multi covers. But when you get to like the Phalanx Covenant or some other non-interesting stuff like Halloween Havoc 1991 and Survivor Series, it's just like, man, I don't know. I think I got to rotate the tires or something for 6 months because this is not a good. Neither of these two shows are any good,
Yeah,
bro.
you want to talk about X-Men 97 or Wrestling
Yeah,
91? I'll
exactly.
take X-Men.
Exactly. Yeah,
X-Men for
you
me.
know, if you find
Oh,
something
wait,
that
you
we
mean the
like,
books? Oh, I
oh,
don't know. It's just flip a coin. I don't care
yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
yeah. If we find something we like, man, we are well jumped in. But these are a little bit of a struggle. And again, it's really the purpose of the show. It's in the title, y'all. It's what we missed in wrestling because this was not worthy of watching. Yes, we were young and we were in college, and that was a part of it. But if this shit was hot, we would have found a way to watch it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
would agree.
yeah,
And it
it's
was,
just
and I just to be clear, it wasn't because I was doing cooler things. It just I wasn't ready to let the wrestling flag fly. Like trying to redeem this nerd who's like in
yes,
a completely different setting. So.
yeah, yeah. We weren't climbing Everest. Yeah, so it wasn't
I don't
anything
have
like
time
that.
for such frivolity. I've got to
Yeah,
better myself and the world in which I live. No, that was not the case.
yeah. And I was thinking about this, and I was talking about this with Hutch too the other day. It was just like, it's 1990, whatever. It wasn't about wrestling, but it was like, think about what you had to go through if you couldn't watch it live.
Yeah,
Find a VCR, find
yeah,
a tape,
yeah.
set the VCR, program it to tape the show. Oh, wait, did the Braves run long? Like, it was like a lot more work to even get to it.
I was trying to
So,
remember, like for the shows that we did actually see, were we seeing them on tape or what? Because pretty sure we weren't doing pay per view, not at
no,
that time.
no,
But
for
like I've
sure.
seen some, or they, I don't know if they ever showed part. I don't know. I have like vague memories of some of the like the Starcades, but I'm assuming that was all video. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, again, we're going into October and November of 91. I'm in college. You're in college. My wrestling fandom is completely hidden from people. So if I saw anything, it was probably because I was home on a holiday and
Hmm.
we just
Hmm.
happened to have it on while we were doing whatever else. So yeah, this is not a great time for wrestling. And so we're going to kind of tie that in. We only do this every once and then where we talk about modern wrestling. And so before the people, and this is going to get cut up into two different parts here, before you listen to this and you see that title slide on YouTube, we don't watch the WWE like at all. So if you feel that this is going to be some WWE pro propaganda, you're completely wrong because I'm saying I don't watch any WWE except for the pay-per-views like WrestleMania. Like I think King and Queen of the Ring is like in an hour. I have no intention on watching any of that. Would that be fair for you?
Yeah, I've been watching the PLEs somewhat lately, particularly WrestleMania, and I wanted to see the
Yeah.
one in Australia because of Rhea Ripley.
Hmm.
But it's funny. The thing that I discovered about like this series is we used to always, it always felt like we were missing out because we would see the weekly show and mostly squash matches, and like, man, I want to see that pay per view. I want to see it, but the matches are like kind of what, even like a good match is kind of like whatever, and you're like,
Hmm.
yeah, they had a good match, but what was the story? And you got the story on the show that we could see anyway. So,
Yeah.
when it's just, particularly when it's just like match, 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 which is what these pay per views are, it's like, it's a lot. Um,
Yeah.
and the shorter ones, the 3 hour ones or whatever, it's fine, but they are making some travel videos in WWE right now too.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
wherever they
Yeah.
go, like
Yeah.
you're gonna get some travel videos. Did you
Yeah.
watch the
That
France thing?
I did not.
Yeah,
No.
mostly what happens is I listen to Cornette. I'm like, I gotta see this shit. The
Hmm.
matches were whatever. The crowd was like insane, but like they were just like it seemed like it didn't even really matter what was going on. They were just
Yeah.
glad to be there. So
It's just And as I have this in here, Cody wins the belt at WrestleMania 40, and again, not having tracked this in any way, shape, or form, only what I hear or read, there's a post drop off after WrestleMania every single year. Now
Hmm.
people are like placing that all, well, Cody being the champion or whatever. Like maybe some of that is true, maybe it's not, but it really is just kind of like they're just going through the motions. Like what I found is like, man, you built up this story all the way to get to WrestleMania for essentially 2 years. And then in the first pay per view after that, he's wrestling. Was that the match against AJ Styles in France, the first
Yeah,
pay per view?
yeah.
So you knew he wasn't going to lose. One, it was in France, and two, it was AJ Styles. And now I think there's a King in the Ring, like I said today, that he's going to wrestle
Logan Paul.
Logan Paul. He's not losing to Logan Paul either in Saudi Arabia. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so yes, you got him to be champion. Yes, you built up this story, but now what do you do? Like the chase was more important than the chip, and it whether it's me, even though I'm not really watching it, or just the standard thing that happens after WrestleMania, after they loaded it up with every star they could get from the previous 20 years, it's just, like, okay, now it's just wrestling again. It just looks like more like it's wrestling because you don't have like the superstars from WWEF past.
Yeah, and the storyline last year was, when he lost, kind of defying all expectations, and he did not win. Then it was like,
Mm,
okay, well, you got to remember, like for Dusty, it was definitely the chase was more important. Dusty would have like a 2 month reign and then
mm-hmm.
chase and get beat up for, and I'm like, okay, so if that's the case, then the prospects of him being champion at WrestleMania next year, I would have to say are fairly limited. So
Yeah.
I think he's going to get you know, some mid rate, some minor angles,
Mm-hmm.
some decent challengers, and then somebody will probably take the belt off him. But I have no guess as to who that might be
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, and again, like I said, we don't watch it week to week. Only listen to whatever we hear on podcasts or, like I said, what I read on the internet. And it's just a wrestling show at this point. Like, hey,
Hmm.
we're doing some wrestling around some talking,
Eh,
trying to build up a storyline with the bloodline all over the place, which is what their bread and butter's been for the last few years. But it's not like, oh my gosh, SmackDown or Raw is like appointment television or anything like
right.
that because of what you're going to see. It's just not. You can easily recap those shows on Twitter in 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, that's enough. Good. And you just move on. But they're still doing a lot better than the competition, which is what we're going to get to now. So AEW is just struggling. Now, you are a non watcher now, correct? You do not watch Dynamite?
I do not. I
Okay.
don't. Yeah, I don't. I don't watch it at all,
Okay.
unless like I guess now, like we were talking, like if I had to therapeutically sit still and not do anything, and there was
Mm,
absolutely nothing else to do or
mm.
watch, I might turn it on just to see how ridiculous it is. Or, but no, no.
Okay. Yeah.
Which in the early days, I thought it was great. They did kind of run everything that they were doing into ground. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Collision for that 2 month period was like appointment TV for me. I
Mm-hmm.
was getting pay per views for a while, and they just it's awful. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's horrible.
Yeah. Again, it's with everything, it's creative and booking. Like it's basically everything comes back to that with AEW. Oh, we put on all these. I am a watcher of Thursday morning while I'm getting ready. Instead of watching the news, I will boop, boop, and flip through like Dynamite in probably 10 minutes. Like, well, let me see if I see something that I like, and then try to go through it before I hear people shit talking it on the internet because I at least want to see it first.
Mm.
And it's just been a really bad show for. It's been a while now. People will go back to when Punk was like when he got fired, but it was kind of a bad show when Punk was there too. It was just easier to get around because he was there. But now it just doesn't. It makes zero sense for the most part. They're big stars that they signed. Whatever. I think Osprey's pretty good too, but he's still. I, we grew
Well,
up in a
they had him
time.
tag team with Pockets this week.
Oh God. Oh God. Oh, God. When I think he's actually a good wrestler, but he's also maybe 195 pounds.
Yeah.
Maybe. Like,
Yeah.
and I think our sensibilities for wrestling is obviously bigger dudes wrestling. It's not that you can't have smaller dudes have decent matches or whatever, but they're not your main eventers, or they couldn't, or they shouldn't be.
Right.
But
Well, I mean, similar
uh,
to what I just said, like uh, the best AEW show is just going to be a show full of good matches because the angles are stupid.
mhm,
They're all the same or they're stupid. And that's where
yeah,
like yeah, it turns out I watched this for the adult soap opera. Didn't necessarily
mhm,
watch it for the action. And
correct.
everything outside of the ring and most of the stuff in the ring,
Mhm.
particularly out, during a match outside the ring or immediately after a match, it's just stupid and ruins everything else that's going on.
Yeah, it's just there's no basis of storytelling. It's just, excuses to have matches.
Yeah, and
And
they have buried Swerve. I know that's your
yeah.
bullet on here. They
Oh,
buried
you
him
see that bullet there. Yeah.
in the much the same way they didn't do anything for Hangman when
Yeah.
he was a champion. They do not know, like, we don't have baby faces, but the ones we do, we have no idea what to do with them. We just
Yeah.
beat the shit out of them all the time.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, and again, like when MJF was, but it happened to him too. He's like
Yeah,
MJF was heel champion, but then people started to cheer for him as the heel, and then they made him a baby
yeah,
face ish heel, and then stuck him in a storyline that lasted for like almost a year that sucked, and then he got injured and he's out for
yeah,
potentially forever.
yeah.
But yes, Swerve becomes the first black heavyweight champion for AEW. That's great. Obviously piqued my interest. I'm like, oh, okay, I'd seen his matches before. Again, another dude that's 195 pounds also, but whatever. Like, it is what it is. In that regard, you just have to deal with it, I guess. But like, then you just bury him, man. Like, he's
Hmm.
been buried for 3 weeks, and
Hmm.
I'm just like, you know what? I'm good.
He
Like,
didn't even he wasn't even on the first Dynamite after he won the title. They had him on
yeah,
Collision.
yeah. It's just w- I don't understand. And then again, the stuff with the Jackson brothers or whatever, they suck. Again,
Horrible.
I'm not, even if I had never. Okay, let's rewind this if you've listened to us for a while. Okay, it's not like I don't like diminutive white tag teams in my history. Okay, so you can't come back and tell me that because I wrote it to the wall for rock and roll fantastics. Like,
Yeah.
okay, like that's not my that is my ministry. Okay, but these dudes suck. They can't talk. Their wrestling is just modern day wrestling style. If you're into that, that's fine. But none of their matches make any sense. It's just spots. It's just a spot fest
Yeah.
continually. They can't tell a story in a match. Like, it's just they're bad.
They
And
and
then
the kicking out of everything.
yeah,
Horrible.
and then to make them heels, which is going to come back here when we get to Halloween Havoc. But then to make them heels, but then essentially keep them the same characters doesn't make any sense. Like,
Yeah.
just like, then wrestle like heels. If you're
Yeah,
supposed to be
exactly.
these bad guys, wrestle like heels. Like,
Right.
try to get legitimate heat. But we're not doing that. Everything's still a joke. We're a D-rate version of Degeneration X.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just a worse version of that, which was, say what you want about it. It did have freaking superstars in it, or at least one for sure, two for sure, excuse me. And, it made sense because they were over and you could get away with being, dicks.
Yeah.
Like, these guys aren't over. They have 165 pounds. And it's just like it's so hard to take them as anything serious. And you're building essentially this entire pay per view around them and anarchy in the arena. And it's like, like, I'm good, bro.
Yeah, you can't it's one thing to say we don't have baby faces and heels, but the matches don't make sense without it. So if you want to
Right.
manipulate the characters so it's ambiguous, okay, but somebody has to wrestle like a babyface and somebody has to wrestle like a
Correct.
heel in a match. And it ideally it's going to be that way week to week so that it continues to make sense.
Yeah. Yes. Ideally. It's just, I don't know. And again, and I was thinking about this morning. Where's the end game for this? So they win Anarchy in the arena as the heels. There's no more blow
Yeah.
offs. What are you going to blow
Yeah.
off to?
And that's the
Like,
point I didn't make when you're talking about like WWE being down. Like they're down because they just had their peak, and they got to.
mm-hmm,
This is like going away and learning a new hold. You
yeah,
got to bring the show down because you can't hotshot everything. So they got to
mm,
bring it down, maintain it for a while, and then start building back up. AEW is just like they are. There is not a thing they're not throwing at the wall right now.
Yeah.
So like they have nowhere to go.
Mm. Yeah, and again, I'm not a oh I see the ratings when I scroll through Twitter or whatever. I don't know anything about rights deals and all that kind of stuff like because I don't really
Yeah,
care about that. That's the out of ring stuff that's
right.
really more interesting than the in ring stuff.
Yeah.
I most people don't care about that. Just
The
make a
best thing
better in ring product.
Yeah, the best thing they could do would be just like focus on 20 people of their
Mhm.
3,000 wrestlers on the roster.
Yeah.
And if you want to break it up by show and do 20, 20, 20 on your different shows, fine, whatever.
Mm,
But like, there's no identity amongst the shows. You
yeah.
have no idea like who's going to be up and down. They have talent and people have gotten over at times, but then they're just not on TV.
Right.
Wardlow, Ricky Starks,
Yeah.
all those guys like Darby Allen and MJF are essentially bulletproof.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, it's just it's like
It's super
why bother
frustrating.
because they're going to be gone,
Yeah.
whether they're
It's
hurt.
super frustrating.
Yeah, yeah, whether they're
Yeah.
hurt because of the style of wrestling or
Mm.
they just you know
Hit
there's
by a bus.
some yes or they're not on somebody's click, whatever. It's bad.
Yeah, it's bad, and I generally don't see it getting any better as long as Tony's still booking. Like it's
Yeah.
just not going to get any better. Like there needs to be somebody that has like creative oversight on this because again, it's if you accept the fact that you can deal with these dudes that don't weigh 200 pounds, that's fine, but just make better stories. Like
Mhm.
having a whole show essentially of cruiserweights, I could probably get behind that for the most part as long as the creative was okay.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it's just not great. So speaking of not great and tying this all together, so we're talking about wrestling in 1991 today. We're gonna swing over here to 1999. Again, if you're on YouTube, it's graphic from Eric Bischoff's show. It's like it's WCW or it's AEW WCW in 1999. We were watching in 1999. Again, there was a phone call that happened between Brother Beavis and I. I'm like, hey, wrestling is on like TBS right now. Like, and Lex Luger just showed up like for
Yeah.
the first Nitro or something. And that started it back for us getting back in after this gap here that we're talking about. And we watched every freaking Monday night. Like,
Yeah.
I can't think of a Monday night that I missed. And if I did miss it, I'm sure I had it on my DVR. So, yes, it did get bad. And then probably by 99, I was probably a little bit close to being out
Yeah.
fairly because this is either pre Russo or right at Russo or right before him, and the storylines didn't make any sense. And again, it wasn't finger poke of doom. It wasn't any of that kind of stuff. It was just it wasn't cool anymore.
Yeah. This
Like it was
was,
cool.
if I remember, we had the two NWOs, most of
Yes.
whom were mid card Sunday night heroes.
Mm.
Um, Hall and Nash were checked out. I think Hall was probably gone.
Yeah,
Nash
rehabbing it up.
was checked out. They were bringing in, we had endured the Goldberg experience, which I
Yeah.
don't think did anything for either you or me.
Mm.
Uh, they were bringing in aging WCW or WWF veterans that
Hmm.
weren't contributing.
Yeah.
Uh, anybody like old school that we might have liked that came on the show, like a Chris Adams or somebody, would have, was immediately buried. So yeah, this was bad.
Yeah.
Also,
The essential beginning of the end.
mm,
And but they were still pulling like 5 million people a night,
yeah,
like on Monday still. They were getting crushed by WWF, but they were still pulling in all these people to still be able to watch a bad product. And I think that's where I am with AEW. Even though your numbers are shrinking, people are coming to watch a bad product. But what happens, or if it's happening now, what happens when it doesn't become cool anymore? Because this is what this was for me. Like
yeah,
wrestling, like it was cool, it was hot, everybody was watching it, we were watching it like it was like an event television.
yeah,
And I think AEW had a little bit of that when it started, but now that it's not really cool, the people that were kind of back in it are like, I'm kind of lukewarm to it. There are so many other options of things for you to be able to watch, or you could just listen to 1,000
right,
podcasts, shit on it for hours, and and just not even worry about it. And I kind of feel that's where they are, taking out the fact of about WCW. I just think it's just not cool. Like
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah, and I wake up religiously and look at a couple websites and follow it and stuff like that, but I spend more time doing that than watching anything. And I
Yes.
spend way more time listening to like Cornette
Mhm.
and sometimes Busted Open, that sort of
Mhm.
stuff. But
Yep. It's just you. And I think Cornette or somebody recently was just like, yeah, it's easy to be cool, or maybe it
yeah.
was somebody else. It's easier to be cool initially than it is to become cool later.
Hmm.
Like once you're not cool anymore, like once
Right.
you're not Fonzie in the leather jacket, then you are jumping the shark for wrestling. And I think that might be where they are. I don't know if you can recapture it. There's not
Yeah.
somebody that they're going to sign from WWEF that's going to make a difference because they'll be stuck in the same booking. And that goes back to Mercedes Monet or whatever. Like as again, I only watched a few pay-per-views or whatever. I watched that match between her and what's the girl with the hair, Bianca Belair, like at WrestleMania a couple years ago. And I'm shitting on her, and I'm a kind of a fan there. We're missing the name. I watched that match. She was great in that. And
Hmm.
Bianca Belair, that was probably 2 or 3 years ago. She was even greener than she is now. And she got a great match out of that lady. So I think that she's a good wrestler, but her
Yeah.
character just sucks over
Yeah.
there. Or if you're not being properly produced, then it makes you can't hide the flaws that you might have as a wrestler or as somebody that can't talk. So I
Right.
think that's part of it. And so now she's just not cool. She was
Yeah.
cool. Now she's not. How did you
I
get
mean,
that back?
I think the best thing they could do would be just strip all the gaga off, start having just matches with amongst a consistent set of people. Like, don't have 25-minute bangers,
Yeah.
have 7 to 10 minute matches where somebody wins decisively and it makes sense. There's not a afterbirth,
Hmm.
and just do that for a while and see like who's getting the reactions, and then start to work angles in for the top storylines and just let the rest of the show just be matches, like
Yeah.
decent matches to get people over and have some semblance of consistency.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's just it ain't it ain't good. All right, y'all. This is us essentially also just avoiding talking about Halloween Havoc and Survivor Series. All right, but now we're back. All right, so the purpose of our show is to go through two really bad pay-per-views from 1991, Halloween Havoc. Again, in Wikipedia, and these facts are never wrong. This is like, yeah, this Halloween Havoc actually becomes their Starcade.
Hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like Starcade got minimized to the point where it was not the big show. I think Halloween Havoc wound up becoming the big show. That and the Great American Bash. Starcade got kind of pushed off. But October of 91, Chattanooga, Tennessee at the UTC Arena, 89, a little under 9,000 people. Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone. Eric Bischoff has now become the backstage interviewer along with Missy Hyatt. And this is his slow ascent to the actual top of actually running this organization starting in 1991 after he had left AWA. And I kind of remember seeing him on there. I was like, that dude's like young compared to everybody else on this show. But I mean, that was pretty much it. Like, I don't, remember anything about him after that or beyond that. What about you?
He was like the WCW Sean Mooney, like just
Yeah.
the rotating parade of stuffed shirts who
Yeah.
they stick a microphone in their hand backstage.
Yeah, high energy. Hey, boy, everything's
Yeah.
going on tonight. Like that, just to oversell everything. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
do remember that, like seeing him back then. Missy High has been showing up on these freaking dark sides uh
Hmm.
recently. I mean, it's not great. Take her
No.
politics out of it, but it's not great.
Yeah, yeah, that's the modifications never age well. And so you
Yeah.
look at somebody like Medusa, who has obviously aged, still looks great. Even
Yeah.
like Baby Doll looks
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
who was never,
Yeah.
she was not a classic beauty.
Yeah.
But like now I'm like, oh, Baby Doll, she looks all right. Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's for the modifications never age
Yeah.
well.
I think Baby Ball, we alluded to her being dating hot in a
Yeah, at
previous
best. Yeah.
podcast. Yeah, pretty
Yeah, at
much.
best.
All right. Survivor Series, WikiFacts never wrong, November 27, 1991. So this is a Thanksgiving essentially show, and that's basically what it's become. The Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, a little under 18,000. Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan. the main event or the championship match between Hulk Hogan and The Undertaker is the big sale here, but it's actually not the main event, which is a massive mistake. Have no idea why they put it in the middle of the card, and we'll get to that when we get to it. But yeah, overall, just a schmaz of people pushed together just to have a pay per view. Fair?
Oh yeah, the teams are teams are
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Ridiculously weird and random. And yeah, we'll get to it. All right, so let's jump into this card. I nicknamed this the Coco Beware Invitational, which is the dark match. Um, there's no dark match. There's no dark match in WCW.
Why is the
Uh,
dark match got to be named out? Why
you know
that's
why? Uh,
racist.
exactly, because he'd been on again. If you've been listening, that Coco Beware has been, and a lot of these has been in the dark match. Uh, but yeah, no WCW, no dark match. Chris Chavez, will become Tatanka, defeated Kato, which y'all told me a while previous podcast. It was actually not Asian; he was from New Zealand or something,
It's
and
Paul
I'm still
London,
fucked up
right? I
by it.
think.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, so
I
Paul London and Pat Tanaka were what were they in the AWA? They were Bad Company.
mm-hmm.
And so now when they did the Orient Express, their
Yes.
words, not mine. Uh, then I think once they were done with Mr. Sato, who was not Mr. Saito,
Mm,
uh, then Paul Diamond came in. But rather than
yeah.
make him Bad Company or whatever, he became Asian. So
Yeah, that's awful. Yeah, and Coco has also been making appearances on Dark Side this season too. He looks like the dude that ate Coco Beware at
eh,
this point because yeah,
hey, Coco's still alive. Let him
yeah,
have it.
that's yeah. Whew, and now that you say that, wait till we get into any of this today
Oh,
because there's a lot of rips here. All right, so 11 matches at Halloween Havoc. Why? And we'll get to that. Survivor Series has the 6 matches, the 5 Survivor Series matches, and then the main event in the middle of the show. I think is actually at match number 3. So what we're going to do here, these 11 matches for WCW, I'm going to condense a bunch of them into these are bad, and we're just going to make fun of them, and then we'll deal with the individual matches as it is. And I can't remember which ones I put in here first. I think we're doing Survivor Series first, but just as a preview, the Chamber of Horrors might possibly be one of the worst things, and this is 100 plus years of professional wrestling. It may be one of the worst things ever committed to professional
what
wrestling.
isn't there like a children book with the dude who had like 35 hats and like
Yeah.
it was all like that's what this match was. The
Yes.
end is it's so bad it's great.
Yes.
Oh my god.
I mean, you could hate watch it, and
Oh.
it's really bad. But we'll get to it because I think I did Survivor Series first. I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah. All right, y'all. Woo, match one. Uh, the team RIP minus Brett versus Ric Flair and a bunch of other dudes. Okay, so Ric Flair, the Mountie, DiBiase, and the Warlord with Perfect, who's using his Lloyds of London injury
Mhm.
at this time. Jimmy Hart and Sensational Sherry. And Harvey Whipple in defeat. Roddy Piper, Bret Hart, Virgil, and British Bulldog. Bulldog RIP. Virgil RIP. Roddy Piper RIP. Okay. I,
Like so Roddy's team, I guess lightweight makes sense. Like if
mm,
him and I think him at this point,
and
he and
Virgil.
Bret Hart were probably some of the top baby faces below the Hogan threshold. We
Mm.
had the whole Virgil storyline that I can't get enough of. It's so good. And then obviously the connection between Brett and Davey. So that kind of makes sense. But
Yes.
Flair's team,
Yeah.
this is
Random.
like just whoever shows up, like whatever heels show up first for the show, they're going out with Brett. They're going out with Rick.
Oh yeah. Also, like remember Virgil was like, or Piper was kind of his second.
Mm-hmm.
When he won the $1 million belt in the
Mm-hmm.
previous pay per view. So I guess there's that there. Flair and Piper have a long history with one another outside of this
Yeah.
particular territory. And supposedly really good friends as well. But yeah, it's just a random Survivor Series match. And so to spin forward, because there's nothing really to talk about here that happens in this. To spin forward, WWE announced that they were going to make SummerSlam now a 2-night event. I think starting this year, maybe next year, and I think it's in Minnesota. And there was the chatter online was like, oh, well, why don't you make all of the traditional pay-per-views 2 night events? So that would be Survivor Series, SummerSlam, WrestleMania, and I think I'm missing one. Like, the core 4 WWF pay-per-views, and make them 2 night events. And to me, and again, not somebody who is a WWE fan, it makes WrestleMania less special.
Hmm.
Like, why does SummerSlam need 2 nights?
Yeah. I
Like
mean,
it,
if they split it up, the female wrestlers on one night, male on the
yeah,
other, but you know how that would come out. Like it would bury the first night
yeah,
likely,
mm-hmm,
um, particularly if like Charlotte's not wrestling, if Rhea's not wrestling,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So yeah, I would agree, but they're like, you know, psh, they're
It's just
essentially free,
yeah.
so whatever.
They're. I mean, they're WWE is in that situation where they're printing money.
Yeah,
Like it doesn't even. I mean, the creative or whatever. Like the brand has become so
yeah,
big.
yeah.
Doesn't really matter what they
I'm
do.
assuming like just the rights fees and
Mhm.
or like whatever advertisement goes along with it and the endorsements is the major source of revenue, and they don't
Yeah.
really even care if anyone watches it.
Yeah, exactly. Like it doesn't even matter. So, but yeah, Survivor Series. Again, we talked about a couple of these since we started this. These are just bad matches to begin with,
Mhm.
anyway, because of the randomness of it. It's just like, yeah, let's put some people together. We got to pay everybody anyway, so let's just
And
put these teams together.
and this one becomes a big schmoz, and Flair wins by DQ, or
Yes,
Flair wins by default because everybody else gets thrown out of the match.
correct. Yep. Okay. And I guess we didn't really talk about Flair showing up here. I
Hmm.
don't think in the last one that we did, he's shown up as
I
the real
think the
world champion.
last one was Heenan was running around with the belt, but I don't think
Okay.
Flair was actually on it, if I
Okay.
remember
Actually,
correctly.
it was because this was the one where that what the one where Flair or they were building up the Hogan match with the
Hmm.
Undertaker and he got attacked
Hmm.
and hit with the belt and fell into the pit or something to that effect. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Whatever. Moving on. Survivor Series match two. Let's make it more random, y'all. Let's throw
Yeah.
the cards up in the air and let them fall wherever the hell. Sergeant Slaughter, Jim Duggan, the Texas Tornado, RIP, and El Matador, which is Tito Santana, y'all. Don't let anybody fool you because they were like, man, your Mexican gimmick ain't racist enough. we, we need
El
to make it more
Matador with the
racist.
flying burrito. Yeah, at least we didn't have
Yes. Come on.
Jesse on commentary to double down on all of
Oh,
that
yeah.
too.
Oof. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
They defeated
babyface
Colonel.
Sergeant Slaughter, by the way.
Yes. Yes. Oh, that's right. Yes. After he had won the belt and then turned on America during the Gulf War One.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then he's come back.
and Skinner.
Versus Colonel Mustafa, who is the Iron Sheik, R.I.P. The Berserker, who Skinner and Hercules, who was Mr. Fuji, yeah, R.I.P. No, no.
Well,
So again, I'm gonna take an aside here. Did you watch the Iron Claw?
yeah, I did.
Okay, I'm in the process. I'm in. Spoiler alert: everybody dies. But beyond that, how was it?
So it's possible that I wasn't paying close enough attention, but I felt like if you don't know the story, it would be a little difficult to follow
Mm,
because like David's death comes and goes pretty quick. If I remember correctly, Carrie's just driving on his motorcycle, and then the next scene he has one foot.
mm,
Like yeah, and actually, if you've seen the video of Mike Von Erich's post recovery, like
that press
interviews,
conference?
it's way
No.
the
Yeah.
actual footage of that is way worse than the
Mm,
movie. Oh,
okay.
that's hard.
Yeah.
They just
Okay.
he was like they propped up a corpse and stuck him out
Mm,
there to save the family. That was fucked up.
yeah.
It was all right. Kevin is probably my favorite. I don't think I ever realized he was the oldest. And Zach
Mm,
Efron was fine. He was obviously jacked, but he never
mm,
looked like Kevin Von Erich. And his
okay.
head was just too wide. I don't
Yeah.
know. So it was all right. But I was like 70 minutes into it. I'm like, okay, David's dead. Carrie has one foot, and Mike's dead. There's 50 minutes of this movie left. Like, what are
Jesus.
we gonna
Okay.
do? And the dude, like, get ready for Ric Flair is the one thing I'll say
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah. I've heard the previews about that, and yeah.
It's you. Yeah, just. hit me up when you get to that part.
Okay,
Like, just let me know
noted.
how you feel.
Oh my
Because
god.
yeah,
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, this match I don't even remember who won. I'm pretty sure the good
it's a
guys
clean
won.
sweep. The baby faces won.
Yeah,
They
all four to love.
yeah they
Okay,
legitimately beat all the bad guys, which is
okay,
probably what they should have done.
because America,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, okay.
probably
Yeah,
yeah.
but Skinner's in there.
Well,
He's
no,
in.
because I think what comes after this is the Hogan match. So you got
Okay.
to you this was to get the crowd feeling good.
Yeah, we're feeling good. Okay. All right, match three. The Taker wins, y'all. Undertaker wins the championship from Hulk Hogan in the middle of this card. It's making me think now, like Hogan. This is Hogan shenanigans. He loses on shenanigans too, but this is Hogan shenanigans to have it in the middle of the card as to not have it be the last thing that people saw at the end of the pay per view. So have it stuck in the middle, and then
Hmm.
those poor people that have to follow it. But two, Tuesdays in Texas follows after this because of the shenanigans that happened in this match. And, Hogan wins, gets his lick back. But then Jack Tunney, I think, there was too much craziness between those two matches. So they make the belt, they vacate the belt. And have to have a tournament or something like that. Or I think no, what's the other match where everybody
Macho.
goes to the
Oh,
ring?
oh,
No, I think that's
battle
where they
royal.
declared the champion, right?
What? So is it
The
battle
other
royal?
pay per view where everybody run, where there's 30 participants.
Oh, the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, is that where how that happens? I can't
I
remember.
I no, I think maybe I don't know. I don't think the title was on the line, but I think they had a tournament,
Yeah,
and I
and
think
so
Hogan got like some cheap loss out of it. No, this was the opening chapter of Flair should probably have the belt, but
mm,
there's no way that Hogan's going to drop it to him on
right,
anything that anybody can see. So,
yeah, I-
meanwhile, Hogan's beating Flair up and down the coast at house
yeah,
shows
yeah. So
that we
paper,
never saw.
yeah, that we never saw. Yeah, hmm I I think we talked about this on the previous show. Is that have you ever seen Ric Flair beat Hulk Hogan by pinfall?
No, no,
No, no,
not in any convincing manner.
right. And they swear up and down the reason that Flair winds up or Hogan winds up in WCW in '92 or three or four, whenever he goes over there, was that was Flair's like doing like, yeah, come here, come here, we'll do whatever over there, and then he goes over there and puts Hogan over there too. I'm like,
Yeah,
yo, he would never do that for you, and I mean, again, I seen Arn Anderson beat freaking Hulk Hogan twice
yeah.
by pinfall,
I mean,
so
from a certain point, and probably at that time, Flair was bulletproof. He could lose those kind of matches. Well, I don't know. Losing to Hogan, he would not just get a screw job victory. He was taking leg drops and getting
yes,
pinned flat. I think at a
consistently,
certain
yeah,
point he was bulletproof, but then you just get a run of like if Flair gets nothing but cheap victories and
mm,
convincing losses.
right.
So yeah, I think that was probably not the move if that was Flair's
Well,
move.
and the descent of Ric Flair into the madness that we have currently. But as the wrestler, but the wrestler too, I believe, kind of starts when he goes back to WCW when Hogan comes in. Like that
Mhm,
version of
mhm,
he's
mhm.
like literally the dirtiest player in the game and the cheap heat. He only does like essentially five moves. You never get the sense like, man, he's one of the best wrestlers of
Right.
all time there. It's
That was
just
yeah,
chop chop, get wooed in the face, strut, get do a nut shot, and but everything else is him just
yeah.
getting beat the hell up.
The
And
60-minute Broadways were a thing of the past at that
yes,
point.
exactly. But you not even 30-minute Broadways, like where he was just like, okay, I'm carrying this dude, even though he's either as good as me or below. No, it was just like, let me just do my stuff. He was the boogie woogie man at that point. I'm gonna just do my five moves. You're gonna beat me up. I'll hit you in the nuts, poke you in the eye, get some cheap heat, and then you'll pin me with your finish. And that was my existence. And he never really got like a chance to show who he was
Mhm.
as the best wrestler again. Although when we get him back into WCW, we are going to get a version of that for when he winds up winning the belt from Vader. We do get a
Mm.
chance to see that part. All right, here we go. Survivor Series match number 5, y'all. People paid money for this. 91 money, but it was still money. Nasty Boys and the Beverly Brothers, or excuse me, yeah, the Nasty Boys and the Beverly Brothers, who I have no idea who they are.
No, I think they
Ver-
were also AWA cast-offs, but not
mm,
sure.
versus
Yeah,
the Rockers and the Bushwhackers. This is in the middle of the trying to turn Shawn Michaels heel with all the beef between the
yeah,
Rockers or whatever, which plays a portion of this match. But
yeah. This is the AWA cast-off spectacular, except for the
yeah,
Bushwhackers.
I didn't think
Um,
about it, but
yeah,
yes. Yeah, we only got what one. I don't know if the Beverly Brothers are alive, but just allegedly only one RIP here. I think the issue is. I was thinking the other day. I was like, man, Shawn Michaels. When we were watching these things, he's doing so much and he's trying so hard in these matches, and then he becomes that singles person, and then he becomes allegedly an absolute terrible person for like
hmm
20 years.
hmm
And it's like, what happened to you? Like, you didn't really see it on the front end, but like, man, like gave you every. I mean, maybe that was the problem, that they gave you everything that you actually wanted for, and you didn't really, you realize you didn't really want it, and you just tried to make everybody miserable around you. But man, this
well,
is awful.
also cocaine's a
What,
powerful drug.
what there's also that. Yes, too. Yeah, yeah. Well, there's also that. But whatever. I don't know. There's nothing to talk about with this match. I'm sorry.
No.
It's just nobody cares. Match 6, y'all. It's the end of the card. So those people had to follow Hogan losing, and all those people being upset and shocked by it. And we get the Big Boss Man and the Legion of Doom, which is so much NWA irony. They defeat Irwin R. Shyster and the National Disasters. R.I.P. What? Typhoon is the dead one, right? No, Earthquake.
Yeah, I think Typhoon
Earthquake.
is still around. He was,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, he might have been in the Brutus Beefcake behind the
Okay. Yeah, I
music.
think you're right. Yep. And then everybody's R.I.P. on the Boss Man and Legion of Doom side.
And I think this was supposed to have Sid in it, and so that
Yeah.
they probably thought at one point, because I think they were also trying to build him up. So
Yeah.
I think
Sid
that
had
was
just
the
come in.
logic,
Mhm.
was Sid main events in a sense, but that's not how it came about.
Yeah, and this is I mean, it's not a squash because those other two dudes, but I mean, it's essentially a squash. It's just
Yeah.
this is bad, all around bad. People paid money for
Doesn't
that.
isn't it that Earthquake gets his feelings hurt because Typhoon gets, like, I think IRS hits Typhoon or something, so they just leave, and
Yeah.
then the Road Warriors destroy
Yes.
Mike
Perfect.
Rotunda, and I'm
Yes.
not calling any of them by their WWE names.
Yeah. Hall of Famer Mike Rotunda, by the way,
Yeah.
as he went
This,
in
I
for
mean,
good.
the sad thing here is, and we'll see this still over in the other pay per view, is like, look at the roster of people that the WCW could have had
Yeah.
that they don't. Or,
Yeah.
and it's one thing to have, the Road Warriors and the Big Boss Man who, went on to get paid, but whatever. But like, the the champion is now somebody that they didn't know what to do with, right?
Right.
They didn't know what to do with, you know, with the Undertaker.
Mm,
We're about to see Diesel again in his
mhm,
various incarnations.
mm.
Stone Cold.
Yeah.
So that's the worst part, is like,
Yeah.
they had the same talent. They had all this talent and couldn't
Well,
figure out anything to do with it.
if we go back to the WCW in '99 threads here, it's the same thing. They had
Hmm.
all of these young dudes that would wind up becoming Jericho, Benoit,
Hmm.
Perry
Yeah.
Saturn, like that whole group of people that they could have built around Eddie Guerrero. Like you had them in house,
Right.
and you decided to allow the older whatever wrestlers to not push them. And again, I don't think that anybody's had that has threaded that needle properly or perfectly ever. Like WCW, WWF has fumbled that bag too, but like it has to be very difficult. How do you push aside the person that
Yeah.
people are most familiar with to put these new guys over, especially when the older dudes don't want to put the new guys over and they're still drawing some version of money. Like
Right.
it's very
Well,
difficult.
but the other thing too is, like, in WWF, you always had like a roster full of big men, and at best, the little guys were tag team champions. Maybe you get a run at the Intercontinental title, but it depends
Mhm.
on who we're building up for Hogan. Versus WCW '99, you had a handful of big guys, the NWO, who were basically just looking. Other than that, you had an entire roster full of athletic, talented wrestlers who just
Right.
got buried nonstop,
Yeah.
unless they were exclusively in their own feuds, which no one would care about. then they
Mm,
just got buried nonstop by the guys at the top who weren't doing anything useful.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. As I said, if we've seen this happen on so many occasions about, oh, you got to push the young guys, you got to push the young guys, but oftentimes the young guys aren't ready. But you can't keep pushing the older dudes because people get sick of them, especially
Hmm.
now when you can't go away and learn a new hold. Like you can't go
Right.
away and come back. I mean, you can, but who's taking that that kind of time off? WWE is probably making enough money where they could probably run storylines with people for 6 months and then have them go away for 6 months or 2 months or whatever, and then come back so they don't people don't get sick of them or something. But yeah, all right. Let's jump into Halloween Havoc, y'all. There's a bunch of throwaway matches, and again, if you're on YouTube, you can see you just brought up Oz losing to Bill Kazmaier or whatever, the world's strongest man. Kevin Nash getting beat there. Johnny B. Bad still doing his pseudo homosexual boxer gimmick. Who the hell are the creatures? Like, and they're featured in a match here too. Van Hammer, who's ass awful, who just bad. And this is a pay per view. Again, people paid money for this.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, not a good not a
Let
good
me
look.
see. So yeah, the best part, the creatures were obviously just like, we need some dudes. And so they came out in mass. The best part was of this stupid cage match that opened was this whole ridiculousness with Rick Steiner being strapped in the chair.
Yeah,
Cactus can't quite figure out the breaker box he's got to throw. And then while he's screwing around with that, they turn the tables and put
yeah,
Abdullah the Butcher, who gets electrocuted in the electric chair in the ring. Like,
yes,
who is this for? It was so
yes,
funny. It was,
yeah.
yeah, it
I
was
mean,
the best unintentional wrestling comedy I've seen in a long time.
you have Sting in this match.
Yeah,
You have Cactus Jack in this match. You have both Steiner brothers in
yeah.
this match. All Hall of Famers.
Vader,
Abdullah the Butcher, Hall of Famer. Vader, Hall of Famer.
Scott Hall.
Yep, Scott, that's right. Yep, Hall of Famers. And this is the best that you could put on. One, you got the WWF cage, which we hated for
Yeah,
so many years
yeah,
in this particular event. But then the gimmick is so ridiculous. Like
yeah,
somebody's getting electrocuted. Like I can't even believe Jim. Well, actually, I can't believe Jim Russ called it because he's calling AEW straight now. So just do whatever for money. But this is just bad. Like
yeah.
I mean, you cannot. Elegante.
Oh, I forgot. Yes, I forgot about him. He's so bad. He
He's
is so
so bad.
bad.
Like, how did that even happen?
Yeah.
Like, how does that even get? Like, who
And
pitched this? Like, who wrote
he
this
stuck
shit?
with
Who
him
booked
for a
this
long
shit?
time, and he had a career in the WWF. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
when he was Slim Goodbody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Google it, kids. Um,
Yeah. But then, like, yeah, Big Josh, so Doink the Clown and some like
yeah.
Pacific Northwest or Cave or Axeman. This is
Mm,
George. This is like Southeastern United States wrestling, not Pacific Northwest. I don't know why that was supposed to get over.
and he didn't even
Other
bring
than
the bear.
I
Did
know,
he have
other
the
than
bear?
having whole ass bears. No, if he, I would watch every match he was in if he brought the
Yes.
whole ass bears down every time.
This
PN
this
News, a fat rapper
PN
who can't
News.
rap
Yes, the
or
fat white
wrestle.
rapper. Oh, good.
Johnny Be Bad, like
Mm,
with yeah. Oh, so yeah, fake gay Johnny Be Bad versus fake gay uh uh Freebirds,
yes.
which
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
don't give
Jimmy
them a
Garvin.
chance to get the Confederate flag rolling against a
Mm,
black competitor. It's
yeah,
ridiculous.
and what's his face? That's right. I think Michael Hayes was injured for this, which
Yeah.
is why he wasn't there.
Oh, but he factor into he could still do
He
the
did.
DDT.
Yeah,
There's like 7 people on the roster doing the
yeah.
DDT.
It's just
Oz, who we had to watch that stupid fucking promo with the wizard. Now they're just
yeah,
completely burying him.
yeah.
Another big guy with no personality who looks great. Van Hammer, fake guitar, just stupid angle
Oh
jobber.
God.
Yeah,
Yeah, who the hell freaking came up with that? And then they kind of did that same gimmick. What was that in WWE now? I think Rick Boogs, like
yeah.
fake guitar
But
playing heavy
but it
metal
wasn't
too.
he like a folk guitar player? No, this guy's all heavy metal.
Oh my God.
Again, you're in the southeastern United States.
Mhm. And again, to spin back to current wrestling or whatever, WWE would never put on this shenanigans at this point. I think they know better, but AEW does and would,
Yeah.
because there's like, it becomes like, well, even negative attention is attention still. So if we just throw a bunch of bullshit out here, people might even watch it just to talk about it, for engagement, and
Yeah.
this doesn't do your product any overall good, and it didn't do WCW any overall good either. This situation either, like you buried some of your best talent on here, and then you put them on after this bullshit match.
Hmm.
Like, how do you follow that with the fat dude being electrocuted and the terrible pyro at the end?
Yeah.
This
Like,
is,
hold on, we got to get this dead guy out of the ring
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
so
Who's
we
got,
can get Big Josh and PN News
yeah, who's got the sparklers?
against the
So we can
creatures.
put them on here. Like, again, more than anything that we're noticing too in this whole recap thing, the production value and like Vince really, even in the early '90s, was like,
Hmm.
sizzle, not steak.
Yeah.
Like the production makes it look so good, you kind of forget the shittiness that's there. As
Yeah.
whereas WCW's presentation is bad, and you it's hard to get over that, even though the matches might be better. Oh, and they're doing the same thing. It's so funny, man. AEW's doing the same thing. It's like, okay, yeah. This is a terrible match or whatever in the gimmick. But when we do get to the real matches, 14 minutes, 16 minutes, 18-minute matches, it's like, yo, you could cover this in a lot fewer time. So, all right. Let's get to one of those 16-minute matches. Halloween Havoc, y'all. Beautiful Bobby defeats Terrence Taylor with Alexandra York in in his corner or whatever. That's fine. It's Bobby Heenan or Bobby Heenan. It's Beautiful Bobby, R.I.P. It's Terry Taylor, who's a really good wrestler, no matter the terrible gimmicks that he's had in the past. Alabama Jam, 1, 2, 3, but 16 minutes of it,
Yeah.
again, if Bobby Heenan or Bobby, why I keep doing that? If Bobby, dang it, if Beautiful Bobby was in AEW now, he'd be the champion.
Yeah.
He would, like,
Yeah.
the stuff that he could do off the top rope and all of that stuff and the wrestling, and he could tell a match freaking emotionally as well. Like, he would be like one of their top wrestlers. He's
Yeah.
just that good.
But as good as he is, like without a mouthpiece and without angles,
Yeah,
he's
yeah, that wouldn't help
it's a
him
tough
either.
watch.
I don't know,
Now
but
I remember, like, I don't know if it was just from perspective from watching exclusively like TV and or Clash of the Champions, but I remember the York Foundation being like a reasonable stable. I don't think we've seen them win on a pay per view yet in this
yeah,
one. So I don't know if they like won all the lead up and lost every single blow off or whatever.
yeah,
But the self made man, whatever he is, the
mm,
computer made man,
yeah.
he hadn't met a pay per view he wasn't going to job on.
Yeah,
Plus, we're post Red Rooster now, so he's
yes.
done anyway. So
He's
whatever.
done. Yeah. Again, I encourage any of your older wrestling folks and younger ones too, but go back and watch Terry Taylor in those Mid South on Peacock in
Hmm.
1980, whatever. Like, that is Ric Flair. He is. He's that good. It's just a Ric Flair babyface. He's that good. You could tell his whole wrestling career is modeled after Ric Flair. Everything that he does, but he really couldn't talk either. But he could be a better at talking as a babyface, and then essentially he finishes out most of his career as a heel. So
Hmm.
yeah, awful. Halloween Havoc '91. This would have been our watch along if we were doing a watch along, y'all. Dustin Rhodes defeats. I think it was not think. I think Dustin Rhodes beats Steve Austin for the World TV title here.
Yeah.
This is not stunning Steve.
No.
He's just Steve Austin
Wait.
at this point.
What you? This is a time limit draw.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Maybe that's why I didn't have it here. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, because they go the 20 minutes or whatever. Is
Yeah.
that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Austin had beaten Bobby Eaton for the title, I think, at
Hmm.
a Clash or something in between pay per views because Bobby won it from Arn, and then we
Hmm.
never saw him
Yeah,
defend it on a pay per
we
view.
watched it. Hmm.
Yeah. And so now Austin's here, I think fresh out of WCW or WCCW World
Hmm.
Class, and you know, got a push, got a valet. We get Lady Blossom.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just going to tell one of these. Is this appropriate for the podcast story? If you remember this or whatever. So we're watching one of these things where he was there and she was there, and that's his wife at the time, right?
Yeah, it was Chris Adams' wife or girlfriend. I don't know if they
Yeah,
actually got married. And then when
yeah, that
Adams
is a
brought in
crazy
Stone
story from
Cold,
the
then
yeah
yeah.
the dark side or whatever. But yeah, so she's there, and we're watching this at your house, and your mom was like, "What the heck with this?" She was quite chesty.
Yes,
I
she
was like,
was.
yeah. So, but yeah, I remember watching this match when we did this. It was a good match. I mean, look at again, two Hall of Famers, both early in their careers. You know, we underestimate Steve Austin from this version
Yeah,
because of the version that we got in WWE, who became, because of injuries, became a punch and kick wrestler. But he was able to do everything in this era. Like, I
yeah,
mean, he was a very solid all around wrestler.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that you start to see more and more of the Dustyisms creep in for Dustin. In
Mm,
his interviews, he's doing the voice and everything. It's like, you know, I can see why like he ultimately wanted to throw all that off
mm,
and kind of be his own man. I don't know if he became the initially became the man that he wanted to be with Gold Dust or whatever,
right.
but I can see how like probably getting pushed down people's throats,
Mm,
probably trying to be a better shaped Dusty. I
yeah.
can see how that probably wasn't going to work out in the long run, particularly
And
with
Dusty has the book
yeah,
here too.
yeah, and
So,
particularly with a
yeah.
promotion that's going to be all over the place for most of his run.
Yeah. And yeah, and I guess that created a huge rift between them two
Mm-hmm.
when he did
Mm-hmm.
go back to that and did that character over there. I think it took many years before they were able to rebuild that
Right.
that that bridge. But yeah, but two great wrestlers, a really good wrestling match. Like I don't any have any real problems with that. Moving forward, oh, all right. So speaking of diminutive wrestlers, all right. So this is the same thing I was saying about the Bucks. Brian Pillman defeated Richard Morton for the Cruiserweight Championship. This was the final of the tournament.
Cruiserweight, yeah.
Oh, here we go. The title of a tournament for the Cruiserweight Championship. Brian Pillman, RIP. Okay, so the right person won. Not saying that. Not at all. Much like the Young Bucks, though, you need to present this person that was a baby face or wrestled as a baby face or whatever. You need to present them as a heel. Don't
Right.
put him out in sparkly tights, man,
And the bandanas and
and
the
the
same haircut.
bandanas.
Yeah.
And that's yeah, and that's what I mean. The Bucks are trying it with these ridiculous little like fake like suits, which is it's actually even kind of worse than their sparkly hanging stuff. But like you need to wrestle as a heel, put him in black, man, to make it like emphasize the point. He wrestled kind of like a heel, Ricky Morton, but I seen him do kind of these heel things when he was a babyface,
Hmm.
pulling hair and doing that, kind of like a Hogan babyface there in certain parts, you know. So it's not
Yeah.
like he was like so different from his character, like and again, and I know it's coming because they do it later with the York Foundation. He should have cut his hair from the beginning. He should
Yeah.
never be going out there with flowing locks like that.
Right. I mean, he kind of his match against Robert. When Robert basically had one leg at the time,
Hmm.
he wrestled that as a heel and it worked. But again, the presentation, it looked like in the middle of a tag team match they just started fighting because
Yeah.
they had the same gear on.
Yep. Yeah, they're wrestling their mirror opposite, and it's just like, come on, man. Like, could you do something about this? Like, you have to. If you're gonna go heel, man, go all the way. You cannot be
Yeah,
afraid of being booed.
they
And I
probably
definitely go ahead.
they probably should have teamed him up with Bobby and let him talk, and they could have
Mm.
had whatever Midnight Rock and Roll Express. That might have been the thing to do.
Yeah, that actually might have been kind of cool if we needed somebody to feud against. But you know what I'm saying? Like this is what I get right now. Like you have to. If I think most of these dudes nowadays, they're afraid of being booed.
Yeah,
They don't want to be booed.
right.
So if you don't want to get booed, except for MJF, if you don't want to get booed, then it's hard for you to
Well,
pull off being
yeah,
a heel.
it's everybody wants to be the cool heel, and then that's the problem with AEW. Like the only heels they have are people that want to be cool heels, and then the
Right.
baby faces are just putzes.
Yep. Wrestling doesn't work without baby faces and heels, y'all. I think we've been very clear on this. It has to have them. You cannot do all these shades of gray dudes. The enforcers, there's Visco, Arn Anderson, defeated who?
Yeah, this was the. I guess we're done with the what were they? What was Laurinaitis and Shane Douglas, the
Oh,
dynamic dudes? Yeah.
the
So this
dynamic
is
dudes. Yeah.
essentially the new dynamic dudes, right?
Yes.
This is like
Yes.
let's get some dudes who the girls are probably gonna like and roll
Yeah.
them out there. Yeah,
They're not old.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Uh.
versus the stall forcers, Larry Zabisco.
Versus the fat looks better tanned
Yeah.
enforcers. Yeah.
Has anyone ever done more by doing less in the ring than Larry
It's not
Zabisco?
Zabisco, man. Everything is a stall. Everything's a backup.
Yeah,
Everything's a wait. I'm like, holy cow, this dude beat Bruno.
yeah.
So,
But this is the
uh,
precursors of the what the Dangerous Alliance. But
yes,
I
the
think
dangerous
they
line.
can't keep that together. But
Yeah, and I think that's with Steve Austin and Bobby Heenan, right? With Paul Lee.
yeah,
Yeah.
Not Bobby Heenan. You are
Dang
stuck on
it.
that.
I am. It's in my head now. Yes. Beautiful
And
Bobby.
somebody else who we're going to see here momentarily.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I have no idea who Chip, Chris Champion, and Firebreaker Chip
Yeah,
are. I know the Firebreaker dude was literally in a fireman's person costume when he
yeah.
came to the ring. And I was
It
like,
was Chris Champion a construction worker or something, and not he's
yeah,
not Todd. See, this is what always messed me up. Like he's
yeah,
not the dude from the New Breed.
yeah, yeah,
Is
yeah.
it Todd
Essentially, they were
Champion?
doing a pseudo YMCA village people gimmick. Yeah, and again, you couldn't. But again, I don't know if you have wiki open on this. Check the time of that match because of all the stalling. I think it
Nine
was like,
51.
yeah, yeah, it was still too long. Like I was like, they should have went through these dudes, and these dudes were the U.S. champions, Trish Champion and Firebreaker Chip at the time.
Mm,
So how bad is the tag team division if these
bad,
dudes are U.S. champs?
bad.
Like, ugh, not good. All right.
Well, look, the tag teams were Big Josh and PN News
Mm,
versus the Creatures.
mm.
I mean, they've got the Steiner brothers like stuck in the main
Stuck in a
event, but
yeah,
not
worst gimmick
to
match.
accomplish anything.
Yeah,
So,
the Freebirds are hurt,
yep.
or at least one of them was. So this was probably why they got the belts off of them because I believe they were the U.S. champions at some point when the last
Mhm.
time we did this. And now you have these dudes. Awful. I'm pretty sure their reign's not going to be for much longer. All right. So the WCW Phantom has been revealed. He wrestled earlier in the match against Tom Zink, RIP. And later on they have this him come out and they do the big reveal, and it turns out to be Ravishing Rick Rude. Okay. Uh he's going to do again, this is when my hey, I know I watched some of these matches or whatever. He's going to be doing has a really good feud with Sting here soon. Uh and I think he isn't he the first what when they get weird with the belt with Flair being gone, he becomes like world champ, the international champion or something weird like that. It's
Yeah,
it's very weird.
yeah. There's a weird. Well, so there. What do they call it now? It's the WCW World Heavyweight Championship is what they
Mhm.
have now. It used to be. Was it the NWA World Title or the?
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know.
Look, again, we watched all these pay per views with him losing. Actually, he won one against the Ultimate Warrior
Yeah.
there too. Uh, Dude is a really good wrestler and
Yeah.
a really good heel. And again, I'm assuming if he liked you, he would bump for you and do all of those types of things. The word on the street was that grade A, real life tough guy. So you really couldn't like fuck with him. But in the ring, untouchable. On the
Nobody
mic,
got more out of the shitty Ultimate Warrior at
yes,
any time than Rick Rude,
yes.
and he still had a job
He
for him
knows
just
how to
about
put
every damn
over
time.
he knows how to put over big limited dudes. And he is a big dude, but he's not limited, even though his legs are chicken esque. Like his upper body, like great. And he can cut heel promos. He didn't mind
Mhm,
being
mhm.
booed. Like, I mean, he again, injury is going to cut short his career, but like the time that he is there, he's actually very, very good. RIP, again, somebody that I don't even think he made it to 40 or 45 or whatever. But like, I mean, just ridiculous that he should not be dead here. But yeah, as the WCW Phantom, the WCW just did a version of this where they revealed when Ric Flair was the what that might have been on the last pay per view we
The
saw or
Black
a couple
Scorpion.
of them ago. that this black mask character comes out and it's just been showing up. But yes, he leaves WWF, comes to WCW. Remember his last time there, you know, uh, previous to that, where he was the world champion with, the tag team champion with Manny Fernandez, where they beat the Rock and Roll Express. And the story on the way out is that they left with the belts. Literally. Manny Fernandez, I never remember seeing again too much after that. But yeah, he winds up in
So I
WWF.
just listened to a podcast with him. He was on Brian Solomon's show,
Okay.
and he said that like he apparently hated Dusty, but like he worked with Dusty. Dusty always wanted to bring him in because he was reliable and could get
Mm,
people to work, and he could be a tough guy if they needed him. But he hated
yeah.
Vince, or he hated Vince and the way he did business, so he was never going to go to the WWF. And
Okay.
he got to the point where he couldn't take Dusty anymore, and I think they lowballed Rick Rude, and he finally just said fuck it. And so yeah, he left.
Okay.
He went to work other promotions and never came back to the WCW.
Yeah.
I think he might have gone to Japan or something like that. But yeah, he wrestled for a little bit, but um, yeah, they called him. He said they called about the titles. He was like, I don't have them. Maybe Rick has them.
Oh yeah, that's great. Wow.
But yeah,
Yeah.
he
But
said they were headlining the B shows with the Rock and Roll and doing just as well as the A shows, and
mm,
they didn't get compensated for it, so they just said fuck it.
okay. Yeah, I mean, when we went to go to the Cincinnati Garden, that was
Mm-hmm.
a cage match with the Rock and
Mm-hmm.
Roll versus them, and and they wound up, they won. I don't remember if it was DQ or anything. I'm sure they fucked them as the heels, but like, I mean, they were the champions then. So he's a great wrestler, man. Like, again, looking back on this stuff, and even you look at some of his other stuff outside of these, like, I mean, Rick Rude is a very good professional wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
That definitely had gone to sooner. All right, the main event, y'all. Lex Luger, World Heavyweight Champion, is going to defeat Ron Simmons in a heavyweight title match of 2 out of 3 falls. Okay, so before we get into this, I'm I didn't think the Ron Simmons singles push was this early. I thought it was later, obviously, when he winds up winning the championship. But I didn't know that it started in like '91. To give him a championship match, Harley's in Luger's corner, Dusty's in Ron Simmons' corner. I mean, this is a big deal,
Yeah.
that you get in the main event at this pay per view. And, I mean, not more than 6 months ago, he's in a tag team with Butch Reed. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean they turned him babyface out of Doom, so and
Mm,
it's at a certain point it's like, well, who else do we have?
right.
Yeah,
But
but no, his real push when he gets the title does come later, but he
yeah.
was near the top of the card still.
And this is a fine match. As
Yeah,
again, we've said this before. I don't know why people are shitting on Luger as a wrestler. He knows what he's doing here. He knows he's the heel. He knows how to put dude over and give him his spots. And obviously, Ron Simmons is limited offensively. Essentially the clothesline. I mean, there's so many body slams in this match.
yeah,
Clothesline, shoulder tackles, body slam. I mean, he even let Luger. Luger let him bench press. Press slam
yeah,
him. I'm like, it's a fine enough match.
yeah.
That Luger winds up winning. I had no real problem with it for the most part. And again, Ron Simmons, I mean, a limited wrestler, and he can't talk. So to put him as the champion is a little bit.
It
It
would have
was a
been
little bit
soon.
surprising when he did get there.
And you've also got Dusty in the main event.
Yeah,
Come on, Dusty.
yeah. I mean,
It,
he's doing his best. They're coaching them in between falls.
yeah.
They don't do that thing where it's just like, all right, go right to the next fall or whatever. They're actually able to go into the corner and talk to their person, and then before going back out.
Oh, you forgot. We
What did I
forgot to
forget?
mention the referee camera.
Oh, I did. Yes, that's right. They did have that with the new camera coming from the
Nick Patrick
referee.
wearing a helmet
Yes,
like
the
bigger than
helmet.
his head,
Yeah.
with the camera on it. Um, I don't think that was. I don't think the world was ready for that innovation.
No, and again, I don't imagine the producers in the truck had to be really careful with that
Right.
too,
Right.
because one, they hearing people call out spots
Yep.
or catching things that don't look as real as it's supposed to.
Right.
Yeah, so it's probably not.
You probably
Gotta
couldn't
get
pull off those double pinfall bullshit ends that they were
with
so
both
fond of
shoulders
there
up.
for a stretch
Eh,
for the back suplex with dope both shoulders. You probably couldn't pull that off with the rougher IQ.
Oh, good grief. So yeah, so Luger wins, but he's not long for not this world, but he's not long for WCW himself either here. He's about to make his jump to
Hmm.
the WWE soonish.
Yeah,
Not fully. I think SummerSlam is that SummerSlam '92 where
sounds
he
right.
slams Yokozuna. So
Yoko.
I mean, he's going to be gone here soon. Which means that this is already he's already had no, he hasn't had the accident yet.
Right,
The motorcycle accident
right.
where
Yeah,
he gets
because
to
he
load up his
right because he has that as he's going, then he's off TV for like a year because it's a
mhm.
combination of no compete and he fronts that bullshit bodybuilding conversation
Yes,
for
yeah,
show that.
Vince's bodybuilding,
Yeah.
ugh, awful.
Yeah,
That's it, y'all.
but also like heel Luger is the best Luger. Like
Oh
whether or
yeah, for
not
sure.
he's just a little bit dirty or the chicken shit heel against Ricky Steamboat, like heel Luger is the best Luger, and just the fact that they flip flopped him so many times, I think more than anything is what kind of killed him.
All right, it's your turn to shine, man. It's got to be Starcade '91. What do we got there?
Oh,
And then I guess Survivor Series would lead to I have no idea.
oh
I know
boy.
Starcade will be next. So Starcade '91. What do we get?
So we are about to experience another bad WCW idea, the lethal lottery. So
Oh
that's
God.
where they threw everybody in a hat and did a bunch of mixed tags,
Yeah.
probably blurring the lines between baby faces and heels. So I'll
Mm.
just tell you, like, these are all tag team matches except for the
Ugh,
last one. Um, so I'll just read through their participants:
I'm ready.
Marcus Bagwell, Jimmy Garvin, Michael Hayes, Tracy Smothers. So there's your wild-eyed Southern boys who were not on this
Yeah.
show. Steve
No.
Austin, Rick Rude, Van Hammer, Big Josh, Dustin
Mm.
Rhodes, Richard Morton, Larry Zabisco. Oh my, a team of Larry Zabisco and Elegante. Oh.
I could tell you one person who hated that.
Bill
But yes.
Kazmaier and Jushin Thunder Liger. DDP apparently is going to wrestle. And Mike
Okay.
Graham, Luger and Arn, Terry Taylor and Z Man, Steamboat
Mm.
and Todd Champion, Cactus Jack, Buddy Lee Parker, Bobby
Mm.
Eaton, Abdullah the Butcher, Brian Pillman, Sting, Big Van Vader, Rick Steiner, Mr. Hughes, the Night Stalker. Who the fuck is
Mm.
the Night Stalker?
Uh,
Oh, the Night Stalker is Wrath, who
oh,
dies. Yeah, he's
yeah. He's real.
Scott Steiner, Firebreaker Chip, Johnny B. Bad, Arachnaman, which is Brad Armstrong,
No,
PN
God, that's
News, Steve Armstrong, Tommy Rich, Ron Simmons, and then the Battle Bowl at the end. Sting eliminates Luger. I don't know what the Battle Bowl
does he
is.
win the belt?
I don't think so.
Mm.
I don't think so. Yeah, we'll have to experience that. So, then Survivor Series, we go. Well, so assuming we're skipping this Tuesday in Texas, and then the Royal Rumble.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's the
So this.
Royal Rumble
Yeah.
'91.
Yeah. And so
Okay.
that's a bunch of bullshit matches, and then spoiler alert: Flair
Yes.
wins the Rumble.
Is that what that's what I thought? That's when Flair wins the championship,
I don't
right?
think
That he's going
so.
to
I think
eventually.
he might be
No.
the champion going into it because they do. I think they had a tournament.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Ugh.
don't know
Yeah.
because I don't think the belt's on the line, or maybe that's still pending something or another. But I don't
Hmm.
think. Yeah,
Mm.
no.
Pass. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's no, no, no. It's not Royal Rumble though. We've seen that Royal Rumble. Is
this
this
is
Royal
Royal.
Rumble '92?
Yeah,
Because they are only doing like quarterly at this point.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. Never mind.
yeah.
No, that's bad. Okay. Yeah. Damn. Again, y'all, it ain't gonna take us 6 months like it took us to get to this one, 4. But man, this makes it very difficult when it's not something that we're like have any real interest in. And that's what I'm saying. Starcade, we used to be so hyped.
They all these pay-per-views where they've done these gimmick battle or gimmick tag team tournaments are awful.
Yeah.
So
And
we get another one.
yeah, Royal Rumble's pretty bad too. But at least we're starting to get to the point where it's going to really, really get bad. And I
Yeah,
think there's a lot of hate watching that'll come from that because this is bad, but it
yeah,
actually really bottoms out for WCW bottoms out really, really hard.
yeah,
And it'll. I mean, again, if nothing else, Eric Bischoff is an opportunist, and like he clearly sees how bad it is, and he's able to jump in there and take control and power of it, and then brings Flair in, or Hogan back, Flair back, and then Hogan in to try to resuscitate it before Nitro. But overall, just an overall bad product. So
yeah.
all right. We'll be back for that at some point in time. It's getting into summer. It makes it a little bit easier for me to be doing these, but we'll go from there. So when we can find us on the podcast version on SoundCloud, iTunes, no Stitcher, Google Play, any device where you find podcasts, and then check it out on the YouTube page. Yeah. So that's it, man. All right, I'm gonna sign off. Go ahead and sign off, brother Beaver.
All right, we'll see you, I guess, in 1992 or 1997, whichever we get to next.
Yeah, we're doing quarterly podcasts, quarterly pay per views. Like the
This is
federations are.
premium
That's
live
basically what.
podcast.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see you on the other side, everybody. Peace.
See you.